Facility management generates a lot of data. As you can see in my table here, for this company X, we have a lot of data here for a facility management. In case you're wondering, I've already converted this into an Excel table. In case you don't know how that is done, I will include a video on every step I did to come out with this data. But just to pass it, you can select a column like this one, and you can come down here. Excel will show you exactly how many rows you're dealing with. So we are dealing with 6,912 rows. That is enough to tell you that it's a huge data. It's enormous data. So on the sideways here, I have some specific formulas, because this one you have to do this one roughly, just to be comfortable with the data that you're having. So here it's written 1. This one I was checking, you can see the formula here. Count A into parenthesis unique, open parenthesis, TBL register. That is the name of our table, TBL register. And billing year, use asking Excel specifically to check this column H. You're asking Excel to check column H specifically for the unique content we're having here. So I wanted to know how many types of years do we have here. Is it just 2025 or is it 2025 including other years? There is a way you can also find this data using pivot tables, but I decided to use this one just as a mode of teaching you as well, that you are open to use these formulas. In our column H, we only have one type of year. That is why it's included 1. So I did all of this table, and you can see my result. In the work order type here, we only have 4 unique types. In equipment classification, we have 8. Electrode, we have 94. And in the local authority, we have 78 types. Of course, the postal code shouldn't be unique, so I didn't bother to check on that. But as you can see 4000, 4005, and other stuff. So we're going now to proceed to analyze this data step by step, and we're going to explain every part and see what we found. So immediately I created a pivot table. In case you don't know how to create a pivot table, on your table here, you click on insert. After you click on insert, it will just drop here, pivot table on Excel, depending on the type of Excel you're using. I'm using the browser, so it might be different. The format might be different from what you'll be seeing from the app itself. So you just insert pivot table, it will select the entire table, and a pivot table will be inserted on a different page. So you can see we have, this is the pivot table containing work order type and the sum of the total year to date. One thing I'll clarify to you, that this is not monetary figures, these are numbers. It means the number of work or workload that was done in this specific year, because column H contains only 1 year. So this is the workload that was done in that specific year. And year LTD, it basically means long term to date. These are many years back, and this is the current year 2025. So this is not monetary figures, this is just the number of workload. So once I created the pivot table, I chose the work order type, and the number of the workload for that specific years, as you can see. Planned maintenance led with 801.64 million workload, and planned followed with almost a half of it, just slightly up. And then we have service maintenance, 142 million, and we have facility management, took around 77 million. So I also inserted a pivot, a donut chart from this specific pivot table. You just click the pivot table and you click insert again, and it will give you what you want to insert here. You come here to the charts, and you just select what you want. There are so many, there are bar charts, everything you can see. So I selected this one. It's called the pie chart, specifically the donut. You can insert the column charts, you can insert the bar charts, statistical, and depending on your preference. And also you can format this to the design that you want. You can format this to the colors and give it a completion like this one. So this is our donut chart from specifically the pivot table containing work order type against the year to date. As you can see here, it has also outlined the percentages. I calculated the percentages manually, as you can see also here. You just calculate the percentages of this plant maintenance, for example, over the total and then times 100, it gives you this certain percentage. So you can see 801 million is equivalent to 56%. 402 is equivalent 28%, slightly up the average. 142 million is equivalent 10%. And you can see here in my formula bar, we have the formula specifically. I had to lock this one so that it used this one as the base for all of this. If you don't lock, it will give you slightly different figures. So you have to lock the formula like that. This column B, you lock it like that so that specifically it takes this one as the base. So this one as the numerator, this one as the denominator, this one as the like that. If you lock, this one automatically becomes the denominator for all these figures. So when you convert into percentages, it will give you these type of figures. So after you inserted the donut chart, you can see the service maintenance took 10%. I just decided to do like this and give it a completion like that. So one conclusion that came out is monitoring needed 28% unplanned. So the management of this company X needs to monitor or investigate this unplanned maintenance. 28% is quite significant, and I don't think it's very fair to have this certain amount of data being unplanned maintenance or workload being unplanned. 28% is quite significant. The management, you as a data analyst, it's your work now to inform the management with the recommendations and what steps you will want them to take as far as what you've seen is concerned. So next, I inserted the equipment classification. In our register here, you can come back into the register and you can see equipment classification, of which we saw that it has 8 different categories, unique categories. So in our column, equipment classification, you have the building, we have the floor, the residence, we have room, site, and we have suite 2, and I think we have system. Those are 8 unique content. So in the equipment classification as well, as you can see, this is a pivot table of equipment classification against the year to date. And you can see residence again is leading with 515 million of the total workload. Site is taking the second with 338 million, like that up to flow. Flow is taking a figure of 2 million. That is very small, and you can see in the percentages it's taking 0.20% as the total workload is quite small. But you cannot ignore the numbers. In facility management, you can't ignore this figure. You have to do the checkings, the background, and know what exactly is this 0.2%. So in my filter, I had the work order type, so you can dance along with this. So you can maybe say planned, and then you apply. So you can see residence is taking 313 million of planned. This is only planned because we've applied the filter. So this is only planned maintenance, 313 of the total. And the percentages have already shifted because the formula is inactive. So it's 39% of planned maintenance. Building is taking the second with 234 million, which is 29%. This is only planned maintenance. You can also choose for unplanned maintenance and deselect this. And you can also see that residence is leading again with 201 million of unplanned maintenance, which is 50%. This is a concern because you can't have 50% going to unplanned maintenance. This is simply reactive maintenance. That is work that you did not even plan. These are the works that come out as impromptu. Site is taking the second with 86 million, which is equivalent to 21.37%. Building is taking the third position with 68 million, which is around 16.91%. The total is this one, and you can see flow is second last, occupying 0.2% of unplanned maintenance. But in our main data, it has 0.20%. So you can see unplanned maintenance in the flow is 1 million of total workload. So you can go deeper into this and know what is exactly happening around here. So you can suggest the management to check unplanned maintenance for flow, which is taking around 0.20%, is quite alarming. So also the residence is taking a huge number. So the management can investigate on this issue and know what is exactly happening. So I'll go ahead and select all the filters. to return back to our data. So in the total workload percentages, you can see residence is taking 36%, site is taking 23%, and building is taking 21%. The three, if you combine these three, it gives you a total of 81%. Only 3 out of 8 is gonna take around 81%. That means the rest are taking about 19%. So residence, building, and site 81%. Investigation might be needed to be checked on these three. What is really happening around this area? One thing, we can also apply the unplanned and see what percentage are they taking. So you can see again, if you go with the unplanned maintenance, residence is taking 50% plus 21%, that is around 71%, plus 16% of the building. You can see it's quite a number, yeah? Around 87%. So 87% of unplanned maintenance in just 3 equipment classification is quite significant, and you need the red flag here. The red flag is here, so the management can check on that and come out with the solutions and after the aftermath of the investigation. So I included also as well the pie chart. If you select the pie chart, as you've noticed, if you click on the pie chart, it selects the pivot table. That means the pie chart originates from the pivot table. If you go to your register and edit any figure here, any numbers here, it will automatically change the pivot table. And once the pivot table is changed, also your pie chart will change. I'll do a video specifically for all I did to come out with these data results. So our pivot chart is here, as you can see, and residence is taking quite a huge number, 36%. You can click and you can see the figure is 515 million. That's our pivot table here, 36%, like that. You can go ahead and format your pivot chart the way you want. You can represent the colors. You can choose the colors to represent the theme of your company, the brand, and everything. The background, you can also choose any background that you want that suits you, and most importantly, that suits your company. You've noticed there is this sum of the year to date. This is the title of the pivot chart, because the pivot chart originated from the pivot table. So automatically it includes this one. But you can also notice we have a filter here. It's basically our filter here. So if I apply any filter here, let's say I decide on facility management as a filter. So our pivot chart adjusts to facility management alone. And when you come to your pivot table, you see it has also adjusted. So we have site, building, and flow. The rest, they don't have facility management. That is the building, site, C2, they don't have facility management. So you can go ahead and also apply service and remove the facility management and choose apply. You can see our pivot chart adjusted. And these are the classification that contains service maintenance. So you can go ahead and select all and apply. So there we go. So it is not all about seeing the huge numbers. It is classifying the numbers into something that can raise questions and can respond to judgments, and you can really help the management and the entire company to mitigate situation, and do investigation, and applause the sites that are doing quite well. So you've noticed that residence, building, and site is taking around 81%. That is a concern. That is one question. You've asked a question, if you find a solution, after investigation, the company, of course, will find a solution about that. So this is investigative. That is your work as a data analyst. In our coder type, we found that monitoring needed on unplanned, because 28% is quite huge. Anyways, we are going to check on unplanned maintenance and see what exactly is this 28%, of which we've found out some of it here, because if you click unplanned maintenance only, in the filter we apply unplanned maintenance only, you've noticed that 50% is coming from residents alone. So in our coder type, you've noticed that here the total of unplanned maintenance, this one now, is 28%. But if you go step by step and into every details, you realize that it's not just 28%, because residence itself is taking around 50%, and the three of these classifications are taking almost 90% of that. So it is your work as a data analyst to go deeper into those scales and really find out what is going on. So that is another response, that is another investigation that you've already done. It's another presentation you can make to the management, and I think we can proceed to the performance rating. Now let's also compare this. It's another pivot table. So this is a pivot table which contains this is the local authority from our register. From our register, you can see that this is the local authority, this one. Our local authority against the year-to-date value. I chose not to include the long-term value because there is not too much different when you compare the two datas. I think the difference is only 200,000. But as a data analyst, don't ignore anything. This is just for illustration and for education purposes. So I chose to include only the year-to-date value. In your pivot table, you can go ahead and include the long-term value. It will show. So you'll just show the pivot table here. So, and here you can include the long term as well. So you can just drag the long term to the value, and your pivot table will automatically adjust like that, you see. So the long term value is here, and you can see our pivot table has adjusted as well. So you can go ahead and do that in all the rest. Also here you can include the long term as well, and your pivot table will automatically change to that. Also here you can include that one, and your pivot table will automatically change. I resist to include it here because it will ask me to change this data because it's going to cross over. That is why I am not doing it. But as an illustration, you've seen here that if you include it, it will automatically reflect on the pivot table. So I'm going to remove that, and we're going to continue. So this is the local authorities against the year to long, and you can see this local authority here called Brisbane City Council is taking the lead. I also did the percentages. See, my formula is here in the formula bar. These are the percentages, respective percentages, 18%. You can also go ahead and apply the filters here. Maybe, for example, you can say unplanned maintenance and see which local authority is taking a lot of unplanned maintenance. There you go. From our pivot table, you can see Brisbane City again is taking a lot of unplanned maintenance at 22%. So from our 28% now, you see we are classifying it route to route. Now you can see it's taking around 90 million, which is 22%. Gold Coast is taking 25 million, and you can also scroll down to the list. Bullshire Council is taking around 29,014 as unplanned maintenance. So this is really nice. This is really nice. You can see how Excel can work all of this data. It's a lot of data, 6,900 rows. How Excel is doing it quite well. So you can go ahead and see what is plant maintenance. Plant maintenance, again, Brisbane City Council is taking around 101. I think there is a lot of work going on in this specific location. So that is equivalent to 12.70%. You can apply the filter for let's say, service. Maybe you want to see Brisbane again is taking 42 million of service maintenance. Service is basically revamping machines, maintenance, like that, the routine service. So you can see service is around 29%. Service only in this specific local authority. I think Brisbane needs some investigation because there is a lot of work going on here. So you can see when you say unplanned maintenance, it's taking 22% of the total value. 22%. That is 90 million of the total value, 402 million, which is equivalent to 22%. I chose to include the percentages because it is very easy to communicate percentages over the numbers. If you tell somebody 90 million and over 402 million, obviously this person will conclude and say, it's small number. But if you include the percentages, 22.42%, then that is quite significant to somebody. Tell somebody or your management, Brisbane City Council is taking 22% of unplanned maintenance. That is quite a number as compared to saying 90 million over 402 million. So communicating with percentage as far as data is concerned is very important and very realistic in reporting data. So I'll go ahead and select all the filters and apply. And we're going to another pivot table here. I created another pivot table of the work order versus the projects. In our register, we had two of that. This row. So I need to know between work order and the project, because we only have two as is included here in our formula. Between the project and the work order, where is the company relying on? So when I did that, you see here, the work orders are a billion, 1.3 B, equivalent to 95% approximately. And the projects are only 77 million, which is equivalent to 5%. So this is, you can say the company predominantly relies on work orders. So work order is the core operational workload of this company X. I also inserted a pivot chart, you can see here. So you can see the blue side is for the work orders, which is 95%, and the project is only this percentage, 5%, the orange side. So this company X relies a lot on work orders, which is quite fair for a facility management. But again, as a real estate or facility management, you will also want to see data of projects. These are growth purposes, because you're developing sites, you're building new projects, you have another project and stuff. So I think also you can say the management can, enact forces around this place and look on ways to increase the projects as far as profits are concerned and everything. So the projects also, you can increase on the project as well. But it's quite fair. Not very bad. So one thing I did was the performance rate. So planned maintenance, we said is 56% from our chart here, 56% of planned maintenance. We said unplanned maintenance is 28% as per our data. So you can do the ratio here, 56 to 28%. So you can say it's equivalent to saying for every 2 planned maintenance, you have to plan for 1 unplanned maintenance. For every 2 planned maintenance work, you have to plan for 1 unplanned maintenance work. That is our ratio here. It's not very bad, it's fair. That is why I rated it as positive. Unplanned maintenance is 28%. We need to monitor, because 28% of the entire workload, it really needs to be monitored as included here. Monitoring is needed. Okay, so the work order is 95%. We can also monitor, as I said, we need to monitor around this area and see what the company or the management can do to increase the number of projects in our company. So the projects are 5%. So as I said, that one is well explained. So we also have another thing here of the top 3 asset concentration, 81%. We need attention on that place. That was around equipment classification here. So residence, building, and site is taking 81%. So investigation is needed ASAP by the management. So that is attention. And then the largest classification took 36%. The company needs to investigate on that. And basically that was residence. Residence took around 36%. So the company needs to investigate on that. So you can apply. It is here. So our largest single classification was 36% of all total works. 36%. So the company can investigate on that and find out what is really going on around this area. But you cannot just go and give the company this information. You as a data analyst, you need to investigate. Then you take the matter to the management, because if you just give this data, it's not conclusive. Because where exactly is this location? What is really happening there? You need to tell the management that, because from our data register, we have the postal code, we have the electorate, and we have the local authority. So you can pin down the specific postcode and the specific local authority and the specific electorate, and you can go and present the data to the management as well for investigation. We're going to do that in a second. and I'll show you how we did that later. So in the column B here, we have electrode. Electrode is around 94 specific or unique electrodes. So it's quite a lot. So you need to pinpoint exactly where. Also, the local authority is 78. We can check. So after I finished doing the performance rating, all right, we go now to the scrutiny. I named it as scrutiny because it is now where we are doing our specific investigation to find out exactly where is all this data going to. So in that matter, I'm going to remove the filters that are here. Allow me to remove the filters here 1 second. I had included some filter here during the investigation, like that. So maybe you're wondering how we came up with this. Ignore these figures, 56, and this was my rough work during the analysis, but I'll delete later. So maybe you're wondering how this table came to existence. I'm gonna show you how I built this table from this pivot table. Just 1 second. We will display our field, and we're going to remove some data here. Let me remove the equipment. I remove the local authority. Let's remove the local authority like that. We're also going to remove the postal code, and we also remove the equipment classification as well. So this equipment classification, we will bring it here on our rows, and the work order type, I think is okay in the columns. So like that. This is how I built the table. I'm just going to show you. So as you can see, in our rows, we have these are the rows going down from number 1 to going down. So in our rows, we have from number 5 here to number 12. These are our rows. We have the flow, improvements, 2-room, system, building and site, and residence. This is our equipment classification from the register. From the register, this one, column D. These are the equipment classification, which we said they are 8 in number. So you can see it's flow, improvements, suite 2, room, system, building, site, and residence. Those are 8. So in our columns, we have the specific work order type, which is planned maintenance, service maintenance, unplanned maintenance. We also have the grand total around here. So for the planned and unplanned maintenance, these are the figures here. For the service maintenance, these are the figures around here. For the planned maintenance, these are the figures around here. So what I basically did is, for example, you come to a figure like residence here. You see residence is taking 313 million of the total planned maintenance. The total for residence is 515. So you take this figure, you divide by this figure, and then you convert into percentage. After you do that, exactly, you will come here to this our table. You will come now to our table here, this one that I created manually. You will come to residence, and you will find planned maintenance here around here. Planned maintenance is taking 60%. So 60% is just 313 million divided by 515 million of the total, grand total of the work in residence only. Take this figure only and not this one. Because if you put this one, it means you're including all this, which we don't want to do that. So you take only specifically 515 million and planned for planned maintenance. So it's 313 million divided by 515 million. And you can see it gives us our figure here, 60%. So for the unplanned maintenance, it's 39%. So how I calculated that, is you come to unplanned maintenance for residence, which is here. Our residence is here. It's the last one on this column. Yes. So you click the unplanned maintenance, specifically the cell for residence, and then you divide by this. And as you can see in our table, it's 39%. So I went ahead and did all this for the rest of the classifications, including the data in the pivot table, and these were the figures. Now, from this figure, you can able now to raise questions, and you can be able now to respond to in questions, and you can now take specific arguments to the management. So about these figures, it is what we calculated earlier. Planned maintenance is taking 56%, unplanned is 28%, service is 10%, and FM is taking 5%. On the building was taking 21% of the total workload. Flow was around 0.2%, if you can remember. The figure changed here. From the formula bar, you can see here, it's 0.2%. So, 1 second, okay. So our improvements is around 1%. Residence is taking 36%, as you saw that one as well. Room is 25%, 23% for site, 4% for suite 2, and 8% for the system. So after putting this data all together, I noticed that flow, which it was taking 0.2%, has 40% of unplanned maintenance. Unplanned maintenance took 28%, but in this 28%, flow is taking 40% of unplanned maintenance. So this is a red flag, and that is why I highlighted with the red. That is investigation number 1. The management needs to check what is going on in flow, because 40% for unplanned maintenance, or rather reactive maintenance, is quite huge number. So we need investigation ASAP here. So also in the residence, I noticed that 39% is being taken as reactive maintenance. So also investigation needed to be conducted around residence, and specifically this place that is taking around 39.11%. We're gonna check that on the pivot table, which exactly location is this, and the local authority and the electorate for all this. So also in the service, I noticed that service was taking around 4% of the total workload, is having 99.28% of service. So suite 2 has 99.28% of service. This is very significant because it communicates something here. What is the question asked? What is really going on here? So maybe there are old systems there. Maybe the buildings are very old. Maybe the machineries are very old. They need replacement. Maybe the weather there is very bad. Maybe the infrastructure around that area is very bad. And that is why 99% is being taken to 99% of the total workload is used for servicing. Servicing is just normal routine maintenance. So I also noticed that FM under site 2 has 22.53%. So this is just the normal day-to-day operations of facility management. So we'll also need to know that site is taking plant maintenance 51%. It also is taking 25%, is almost half. Also, this one you can check around this area what is really happening, and 22% of normal work day also as well you can check, because it's quite significant number. So I'll just go ahead and now investigate the specific locations highlighted in red, and now we're going to find them ASAP. So here is how you do it. So we will start the investigation right away, and on our pivot table, this is the same pivot table. So on our pivot table, we are going to insert our equipment. You can drag the equipment to the classification. When you drag that one, it will come here on the first column, on the first row. And then we are going to drag the local authority as well to the rows. We might also need the postcode. So I'll put the postcode there on the first, okay. And then we will drag the work order type to our columns like that. So as you can see, we have our rows containing the postcode, and the local authority also should be here. How to know that you have local authority? You can come here and you can expand the entire field like that. You can see our postal code is here and our local authority is here. They are being contained in the same row. So I'll go ahead and collapse. I'll go ahead and collapse the entire row as well, so that it gives us a clean environment to work. So I'll go ahead and collapse. So we are specifically looking for this flow. We are going to start with flow. because we noticed that 40.87% of the total works included in flow, which is apparently taking 0.2%. Our flow is taking 0.2% of the total workload, but in the 0.2%, this one, we have 40% of unplanned maintenance, which is quite significant, and we routed to check on that specific and include the investigation to the maintenance, to the management, sorry. So we can filter. The purpose of putting the filter here is that we can filter the flow only. So, and again here on our columns, we can also filter to include the unplanned maintenance only. So you can apply. So as you see here, we have postal code 4000 leading, because this is the grand total now. This is the work and the grand total. So postal code 4000 is leading with 434, 637 total workload from a million. So you can go and expand here. You can click that one to expand and find out what exactly is happening and the exact local authority. So in local authority, Brisbane City Council, we have unplanned workload of 434,000 of the flow. So specifically, you can tell your management to check exactly on this specific location, Brisbane City Council. But city is quite big, so we can drag also you can say we can remove the local authority. You can remove the local authority and include the electorate like that. So it is McConnell. McConnell is having 434 of the total workload. Also, you can also include the local authority as well. So you can also expand here and see here now like that. So we're having 3 postal code, electorate, and local authority included on the rows, and now you can see postal code is 4000. McConnell is also there, and the city exact place. So you can tell your management, you can suggest your management to check here. The investigation will be done in this specific location. So we're going to investigate on the other thing that we saw from our summary. We see that service is taking 99%. Let us go to the residents first. So we have residents taking 39% of unplanned maintenance. So you also need to check on this location and know where is that specific location. So you will come here to your filter and make sure you include the residents only. Make sure to include the residents. And we're going to retain the unplanned maintenance. So you can see postal code 4895 is having 11 million of unplanned work, and you can click the plus sign here to expand your work to see the specific locations like there. So postal code 4895, which the electorate is called Cook, containing these local authorities. So you can just see, look, the entire electorate is containing 11 million, and 8 million is coming exactly from this specific location. Wajul Council is having 8 million. Hopevale is having 1.5 million, and Cookshire is having 952,000. So you can send your management to start the investigation around Wajul, which is taking 8.5 million. That is quite a huge number. And as well, you can also convert that one into percentages, as we learned earlier, and to see of the total of 11 million, how much is this. Also, you can take 11 million of the total in that postal code, and you can come and convert it into percentage by simply dividing it by the total that you will find down here. This is the total of unplanned 201 of the residents. So you can divide that one with our 11 million and see the total percentage we're having as far as unplanned work maintenance is concerned, exclusively on this specific postal code, electorate, and local authority. So that is finding number 2. So we have the specific location to send your maintenance. You just don't check on numbers. You also make sure you have specific data and specific location to send your management. So that is number 2. That is 1 investigation, 2 investigation done. We can also check on service. We notice that suite 2 is having 99% of service. So we want to know which location is this with a lot of service. So maybe the items are very old there, as we click. So you can select seat 2. Was it seat 2 or what? You can select seat 2 and you can apply. And on our columns, you're going to select only service. I'm going to select only service. Our data is already sorted, so there is no problem because it's sorted. So it's basically arranging from the largest to the smallest. So it is postal code 4000, McConnell, and it's Brisbane City Council. So it's just one city council here. It's having 4.6 million. So that is another work done. So this is the specific locations. These are the specific postal code, electorate, and the city council. So your management can just go there directly and fish out what is really going on. Also, FM, you can go ahead and check FM as we did, and as how we've learned it. And sure, that is how you scrutinize every data and come up with real findings. So you can just see from all this enormous amount of data, we were able to script the data into a table here, a very simple table, as you can see, which is just giving us everything that we need to know. Or from this table, we've been able to scrutinize this enormous amount of data to this specific one. It's quite huge, it's quite significant. And even though our register is not representing everything as far as facility management is concerned, but it was a good learning tool and a good tricks and good lessons to find out. Next time, I'm going to include the videos of how I did this step by step, in case you're wondering how a pivot table created, how you scrutinize data from point to point, how you build up this one, how do you choose the colors, how do you make your data to be point out and stuff, how do you just basically format everything. I'm going to include a video of that next in my videos. Thank you very much for watching and for following up. Make sure to follow, subscribe, and like my video. Leave a comment on the comment section if you have any question or any suggestion. Thank you very much.